Okay, so today we are going to make beef stew, also known fondly in our family as mommy soup. And so it really has the basics. You have onions, carrots, celery, and then we have a beautiful seared piece of beef, and then you have some canned peeled plum tomatoes, and then you have some beef stock and some herbs and spices, and then you're going to slow cook for a few hours in the oven. So just a couple things to get us started. So again, here's the onion, and we're going to do some that are small dice, and then we're going to do some in bigger pieces. So again, here you have the root end and the top. You can take the top off right at the beginning if you want to, and then cut it in half. And then peel it. I find it easier to peel it with the root end still on it. You can take both off if you want. And for this purpose, I'm going to make some big pieces. So I'm taking the root end off, and this is really, does not have to be precision cutting here. We're basically going to do like 3 cuts across, 2, 3, and then we're going to do 2 cuts this way, like that. So you got a couple of big pieces of onion. And then for the carrot, I've got some pieces that were from smaller carrots that I couldn't grate earlier, or you know, the ones that you get in the bag, they're already peeled. Those are perfect size as long as they're about the same size, so then they'll cook evenly. And with the celery, here we've got our celery, and about the same length. We want pieces kind of about that big, right? So pretty good sized pieces to get us started. So get your vegetables going. I'll show you a good piece of beef that's a nice size for doing a full roast, and that'll feed you for a few days. Okay, continuation of beef stew, mommy soup. So I've got my Dutch oven. This is a Le Creuset from my mom that I've had for decades, and we've got a nice piece of shoulder roast from the butcher shop, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So what you do is you're going to sear the meat first. We're going to sear the meat in here, then we're going to take the meat out, and then we're going to put our vegetables in and saute our vegetables. Then we're going to add our meat, and then we're going to add our stock and seasonings, and then it's going to go into the oven. So I'm going to get the pan or the pot here really nice and hot, and then I'm going to add some olive oil. So really just enough to coat the bottom, because the beef has got you know, the beef has got some nice fat to it, and so you don't need to put too much oil in there. So here's our piece of beef. This is about 2.5 pounds. It's a piece of chuck. You could easily fit another pound or so into this pot, no problem. But I'm cooking just for the 2 of us here, so you know, this should be plenty. So I got my oil nice and hot here, and in this goes to sear. Okay. I keep jumping into the video. Alrighty. So hopefully you can see that all right. I got to turn the fan on low here. Let me try to get that a little bit closer so you can see the meat in there. Alright, so what we're going to do is just sear it so you're getting the nice brown notes on the outside. We're not trying to cook it all the way through, we're just really searing it. I've got the flame on high, right? And it's splattering around, so if you want to keep it from doing that, you can cover it a little bit if you want, or if you have one of the little screens that goes over the top, you can you can use that, but you just want to get it nicely browned. Oh, we'll go a little bit more than that. So once I get it flipped over here, I'll stop the video and then I'm going to start with doing my vegetables. Show you how to put that all together. All right, there we go. So he's got some nice brown on there. Okay, let's do that side and then we'll do the vegetables. Alrighty, so my beef is seared. There's fat in the pot from the beef. I'm going to start with my onions. I'm going to turn it down a little bit here. Now our heat is about medium high, okay? We're going to saute the onions for a little bit. Let me get that a little bit closer so you can see in there. So we've got about 2.5 pounds of meat. We've got 3 onions. We got 3 stalks of celery, and then we've got about 4 carrots. If you're using the baby peeled carrots, you know, about 4 or 5 carrots worth. And you can add more of any of those if you want to, no problem at all. And you can cut this recipe in half, although you're going to be cooking it for a couple of hours. So this is the kind of thing that keeps really well and freezes really well. So I don't think it would be worthwhile doing such a small amount. But it freezes beautifully. You can also triple it. You know, I could probably fit 2 of these. I could probably fit 5 pounds in here without a whole lot of trouble. All right, so take a look at that. There are my onions. Those look pretty tasty, don't they? They're nice and brown, but they're not getting too dark. Okay. And now here I've got my celery and my carrots. So I think we need a little bit more carrot. That doesn't look like enough, so I'm going to use some of these peeled ones. There we go. Alrighty. How's that look? Oopsie. Get that guy back in there. Okay, so we've got our celery and our carrots and our onions. Let's let them cook a bit. Sorry that the fan is so loud. Hopefully you can see that okay. So we're going to let that cook. And then we're going to add our beef back in there. And then we're going to add the beef stock to it, and then we're going to kind of bring it to a nice simmer, okay? In the meantime, get your oven set for maximum 300. If you can do like 285, that's even better, because what we're going to be doing is we're cooking it for a long time at a low temperature. And that's going to help make the meat really tender as it cooks. So you're going to be cooking at about 275, 285 to 300 max. And we're going to cook it for about 2.5 hours in the oven with the top on. All right? Okay, I want to show you something else that I like to add, but this is optional, right? So these are, it's gonna be backwards in the video, I think, but this is a can of Italian peeled plum tomatoes. So those are my favorite kind of canned tomatoes. The ones from Italy are great. And basically what you do is you take them and you put them in a bowl. And then you'll see them here. And here's the peeled plum tomato, and it's good to squeeze them so you're kind of giving them a little breakdown before they actually start cooking. So they're nice and soft. Just wash your hands first. A lot of the Italian ones come with a basil leaf. I take the basil leaf out and get rid of it. But you squeeze them up, and this is a good basis for, obviously, for marinara sauce or tomato sauce. But these really make your stew nice. So I just take these guys, squeeze them up. You can do this with a fork if you don't want to get your hand in there. They don't have to be too squished. You know, it's just trying to break them up a little bit. There you go. So that's what we got there, right? You can see that. And I'm going to add this to my vegetables. Okay, so now I got my vegetables, and I got my tomatoes. Hopefully you can see that all right. And I had to be a little careful there because I was talking so much. I got to be careful that I don't start burning the vegetables, right? So always pay attention to what you have on the stove. And now we're going to add our piece of beef back in here. And then I'm going to use organic beef stock. Now ideally you make beef stock, and we'll do that in a different day. But this time I'm going to use a store-bought organic beef stock. And that's one container, and that's probably plenty, right? Move it around a little bit so the vegetables kind of make their way around. And now we're going to bring it to a simmer. So the stove is pretty high right now. It's up pretty, it's kind of medium high. And we're going to let it go to a simmer. Get it going. I've got my oven on. My oven is set at just under 300 degrees. And you got to watch out for the calibration of your oven. So if your oven tends to be hot, you know, try to make sure that you're not getting it too hot for this. So if your oven tends to be hot, then just turn it down a little bit more. So aim for this kind of 275 to 300-ish range. All right. Okay, we're about ready to go into the oven here. So I'm going to add a couple more things. I got some rosemary sprigs here. I'm going to put those in, and I'm also going to put some thyme. So this is dried thyme, which I actually like a lot. If you have fresh thyme, I'm going to show you later how to make a bouquet garni, which is taking your herbs and kind of tying them together in a little bit of celery. But you can add those in there, and you just got to make sure that with your rosemary that you're going to be able to pull the piece out. But here you go. So you see that that's simmering now. It's actually almost boiling. We got the meat in there. We got the vegetables and the stock and the tomatoes. I haven't put a lot of salt in there yet, but we'll get there. So we're going to put the top on. I got my oven set at about, it's about 300, and it's nice and warm. And so into the oven it goes. And it's gonna stay there now for about 2.5 hours. Alrighty? Okay, the pot roast just came out. It's been in for close to 3 hours. Let's take a look and see how it's doing. Oh yeah, baby. That looks awesome. So, you know, you can see that the stock has reduced a lot. And what you want to do is just check to make sure that your meat is really tender, and see that? That's perfect. And like I had mentioned, we'll take this rosemary and get rid of that. So we'll just pull that out of there. And so you're good to go now. You want to taste it and see if it needs salt and pepper. And then, you know, you got enough here for a good 5 or 6 meals. And it'll keep and freeze beautifully, so you can portion it and freeze it if you want to too. Mommy soup.